let me start by probably saying that political consciousness is one's political state of mind. And this state of mind is based on the personal awareness of the politics of the country or of the continent or of the region. It is also based on the position that an individual might be having in a political system. But it is also shaped by the experiences that people go through. And the youths of our time went through quite very rough patches where they were subordinate or subservient to the colonizers, starting from their parents, where an adult, when he worked in the garden, would be called a boy. So you would see that you are your father, if you so happen to visit him, if you had the opportunity to do so, you find him being called boy by even a very young person. That in itself triggers questions why a person that I call father is called a boy by somebody else, probably of a very young age, by virtue of that young person being white or being the boss of my father. So, and the other thing is that during our time, there were quite a number of laws that were put in place which did not allow us to move freely in our own country. And by merely going to school, we were also opened up to the fact that the traders, when they were coming to trade or sell whatever they wanted to sell, they had stopovers on the continent, and among them we had the Cape of Good Hope, which currently has turned out to be Cape Town now. This is where we have people settling, and at the end of the day, they are all over. And you have Cecil John Rhodes, who says he would want to penetrate from Cape to Cairo. And this is part of the history that we were exposed to, which then brought some questions amongst some of the youth to say, why is it that we have so many things on the African continent that are said to have been discovered by people who came to Africa? Yet on the African continent, there were people who were there who were using some of the things that were said to have been discovered. Like, for instance, we have the Victoria Falls, named after Queen Victoria, by I think Dave Livingstone, claiming that he discovered the Victoria Falls. Surely, when you begin to think critically and analyze all these things that were happening, it brought a political consciousness amongst the majority of the youth to say that there is need for us to define who we are. There is need for us to take our space, our rightful space in on our continent. And it was also important for people to begin to say, we are not subservient to any other race, and as a result, this started to broaden the consciousness of many of our youth. And you have youth, you talk of Steve Biko, you talk of, you can talk of a number of people that that became so strong in their consciousness and the need for Africa to be liberated. And our early leaders then united and then they worked together. Although there were challenges in working together, they then forged ahead, and we now have an independent Africa where most countries are independent and are trying to craft their destiny using the means and the resources that are available on the continent. So all this came as a result of the consciousness that became so intertwined amongst the youth, because we see others that went to Ghana, for instance, the others that went to Fort Hare in South Africa, and the others that went to different parts of the continent. And as a collective, these youth then decided to say, here we are. We now have an insight of what we need to do as youths on the African continent to liberate ourselves.
And how was it possible to be able to navigate, to transmit information? Because at this point, you understand that somebody is telling you a lie. You could hear, you could understand. Those who were enlightened, those who were conscious of what was going on, could understand that the things wasn't right. So how were you able to transmit the right information? Were there a kind of a way that you were communicating among yourself like this as young people in Africa at the time?
I think we must understand that the few people that had the opportunity to learn, to go to university, it was in the universities across the continent that we saw a new generation of people coming up who became more politically conscious and who found it fit that we should breed our own leaders on the African continent. And I think if you look at people like the one who started the African National Congress in South Africa, he was a young man who had gone out to the Western countries to study. And it was during that time that his political consciousness and awareness grew so much that he found it fit that when he came back to South Africa, he then started the African National Congress. And there were already other people, leaders on the in South Africa who were in universities and discussing these issues about the need to liberate our own countries. And even then, at that time, we also had people moving from one part of the country to another. Like, for instance, the late president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, he went to Ghana in the 1960s. And it was during that particular time that he had an opportunity to meet quite a number of other leaders who were activists at that particular time. So it was during the sharing of these ideas that people began now to say, if I go back to my country, I will then conscientize other people of the need to liberate ourselves. And it was in small groups, and the rise of the workers' union at that particular time, where people were now beginning to come together at workstations and discuss issues. This is the emergence of the unions led to the growth of the political movement on the African continent, to the point that they started to collaborate and work together throughout the country. And there is no country on the African continent that would then claim that they did it on their own, because you know, when we had the African Union, when you have the SADC region, SADC, when it was formed, the frontline states, all these were groupings of leaders that were coming together in order to share experiences and find ways in which they can work together to liberate African countries. So that's how people were able to come together and plan for the liberation of their countries. And each time when this happened, the colonizers would jail these people, would arrest them and jail them. And when they went to prison, again, it gave them an opportunity for them to sit together. You would find that the majority of our leaders went to prison, and it was in these prisons that they became more politically conscious and more resolute in the need to liberate their countries, because they would share the challenges from people coming from diverse backgrounds and from different communities. And then they saw that the challenges that they were facing were the same, and they needed unity in order for them to liberate the different their countries. And this is how we find quite a number of our leaders becoming hardened, resolute, and they did not fear anything because they had seen it all in prisons and and various other places where they were taken by the former colonizers. And this segregation which was there, and by the whites at that particular time, also made it very easy for people to identify who they belonged to. You would easily know that you are not wanted on that side, you are wanted by your own fellow blacks. So in so doing, while they thought that they were punishing us, it also emboldened us in coming up with means and ways of making sure that we come out of the way they had pushed us, and we did that. Here we are, there's Africans. We are in the process of trying to chart our own destiny as a people.